Somewhere in the rolling green hills of the Catskills, there was once a town that existed only in ink. It had no houses, no streets you could actually walk down, no one living there at all, and yet for a strange stretch of years, it sat right there on official maps of New York like it belonged. The town was called Agloe, and it was born as a trick. Back in the 1930s, two mapmakers working for a drafting company were putting together a road map, and they were worried about thieves. In those days, copying someone else's map was easy and hard to prove, so they came up with a clever defense. They invented a place. They took their own initials, shuffled the letters around, and stitched together a name that had never existed. Then they dropped it onto a quiet dirt crossroads and waited to see who would copy it. This wasn't a one-off idea. It was actually a whole secret craft. For centuries, cartographers had been sneaking little lies into their work on purpose. A street that led nowhere, a gentle bend in a river that wasn't really there, a pond with no water, a hamlet with no people. These deliberate mistakes had a nickname among mapmakers. They were called trap streets or paper towns, and they all did the same quiet job. If a rival printed a map and that same fake detail showed up in their version, there was only one possible explanation. They had copied it. The invented place was a fingerprint, a signature hidden in plain sight, and it was almost impossible to argue your way out of. After all, two people can independently survey the same real river and draw it slightly differently, but no two people will ever invent the exact same imaginary village in the exact same empty field. The odds are simply impossible. That was the whole genius of it. A single fake detail, small enough that most readers would never notice it, carried more legal weight than 1,000 accurate ones. It was the mapmaker's version of catching someone red-handed, and it often ended with a very awkward day in court. But here is where Agloe takes a turn that no one saw coming. A few years after the fake town was planted, a rival company published their own map, and there it was again, Agloe sitting in the exact same spot. It looked like an open and shut case of theft. Except when they were confronted, the other company said something bizarre. They insisted the town was real, and technically by then they weren't entirely wrong. Someone had spotted the name on a map, assumed it must be a genuine place, and built a general store there, proudly calling it the Agloe General Store. A lie had accidentally become the truth. For a little while, a town that was invented to catch liars had willed itself into existence. Today the store is long gone, and Agloe has faded back into being nothing more than a lonely intersection in the woods, but its story is one of the strangest in the history of maps. Now, not every phantom place on a map is a clever trap. Sometimes the ghost towns got there by pure accident, born from nothing more than a tired traveler and a hopeful guess. Picture the Great Lakes in the 1700s. French explorers were paddling through vast, misty waters, sketching what they saw, and out on Lake Superior they were certain they spotted a cluster of islands. Their measurements were, let's say, generous. A cartographer back home trusted their notes completely and drew one of those islands onto a beautiful, authoritative map. He gave it a proper, elegant name, and then the real damage began because other mapmakers trusted him. They copied his island onto their maps, and those maps were copied again. And within a generation, this island that had never poked above the water was appearing on charts as solid fact. It stayed there for decades, quietly confusing sailors, until someone finally sailed to the exact spot and found nothing but open water rippling in the wind. Historians now believe the whole thing was a mix-up with a real island nearby, seen twice and counted as two. That's the eerie thing about maps. We treat them as pure truth, but they are really just a chain of people trusting the person who came before them. One honest mistake repeated with confidence can outlive the person who made it. And it isn't only invented places that haunt the map. Some towns were absolutely real, full of hope and ambition, and then simply emptied out. There is a spot in the Arizona desert with the almost poetic name of nothing. A man decided to build his own town there in the 1970s, out in the blistering heat along a lonely highway. He put up a gas station and a tiny store, and he planted a bold yellow sign announcing the town of nothing, population 4 people. That was the golden age. Eventually he packed up and left. The buildings began to crumble. A few dreamers tried to breathe life back into it, and then it slipped back to living up to its name. Nothing became nothing once more, and somehow that made it famous. But of all the abandoned places scattered across the country, none is quite as haunting as a town that couldn't leave because the ground beneath it wouldn't stop burning. From a distance, it looks almost ordinary, until you notice the cracks splitting the roads and the thin ribbons of smoke curling up out of the bare earth. This town in Pennsylvania has been on fire underground for more than 60 years. It started in the early 1960s, and the flames slipped down into a maze of old coal tunnels running beneath the streets. Once the coal caught, there was no putting it out. Smoke started rising through people's gardens. Then one day the ground simply opened up beneath a young boy, and only a tree root saved him from being swallowed whole. That was the moment everyone understood the fire was never going away. Experts warned it could keep burning for another 250 years. Almost everyone left. A handful of stubborn souls still remain, living above a slow, invisible fire that will outlast them all. The town lost its official recognition, its streets stand empty, and beneath it the coal glows on in the dark. And once you start looking, you realize these places are everywhere. In just one state, there are hundreds of ghost towns, silent and deserted. In another, hundreds more, most of them left behind when the gold and silver ran dry and the miners moved on. People arrive for a reason, and when the reason disappears, so do they, leaving the buildings to the desert and the wind. You would think all of this belonged to a distant past, before satellites, before we could see the whole planet from space. But the phantom towns never really stopped appearing. Not long ago, a man in England was scrolling through an online map of the area where he grew up, and he noticed the name of a town he had never heard of, sitting right in the middle of what he knew to be an ordinary farmer's field. There was no town there. There had never been a town there, just grass, mud, and maybe a footpath. And yet the map insisted it was a real place, complete and confident. Nobody could ever fully explain how it got there. It was simply an error that slipped into the system and took on a life of its own. The town was eventually erased, and the field went back to being an empty field, but not before it became a small legend. People made jokes about it, printed t-shirts about visiting a place that didn't exist, invented souvenirs, and even a pie made of nothing at all. A glitch had become a folk hero. So the next time you unfold a map or glance down at the glowing one in your hand, remember that it isn't quite the perfect mirror of the world you think it is. Tucked inside all that careful detail are traps laid by clever mapmakers, mistakes copied faithfully for centuries, towns that faded into dust, and ghosts that slipped in when no one was watching. Some were placed there on purpose to catch a thief. Some crept in by accident and refused to leave. And a rare few, like a certain crossroads in the Catskills, were invented as lies and then quietly, stubbornly became real. The map has always been a little bit of fiction pretending to be fact, and that is exactly what makes it so endlessly, wonderfully strange.